regarding you know the TDS. Then so this is a simple example which says that these are the income of a business income or net income, and then the deductions whichever is available. So the net income is this and the tax liability is this. So what is important that the gross total income exceeds 1,10,000 is deducted by way of TDS by the the banks. So out of this the 10,000 will be deducted, and the remaining amount which required to be paid by. So right, so the gross interest income is this and the TDS and net interest paid to this. So its simple example is given. I think I have not discussed the very important aspects with you about the TDS rates during the financial year 22-23, assessment year 23-24. Because the material which I was using was earlier one. Now I have a soft copy of the material, which all of you have in your hands. So if you open the page number 585, it is given over here. So the TDS rate it is very important to understand this. There could be one small question on it because it is very important. So the normal TDS rates as summarized in appendix 1, para number so and so is applicable, and we are learning in each of the sections. What this two is there. One, we already learned, if the recipient does not furnish his PAN to the deductor, then as per section 206 AA, if the recipient does not furnish her or its PAN to the deductor, the tax will be deducted by virtue of section 206 AA at the normal rate or at the rate of 20%, whichever is higher. So take a simple example. If a particular person puts a fixed deposit into a bank account, and suppose the bank is going to pay interest on the fixed deposit which the one person has put with the bank, is suppose 1 lakh rupees. So by virtue of section 194A, interest other than interest on security, if any person is paying an interest above the prescribed limits, so there are a number of limits, 40,000, 50,000 or 5,000. So there are different kinds of selling limits are there. So if interest amount is going to exceed that limit, then the bank will obviously deduct the TDS from it, which is covered under section 194A. I can show you section 194. This is section 194A, which is and you have to go to on page number, as all of you have requested me, sir, कि आप page number बहुत जल्दी घुमा लेते हो. So please give us the time, right? So on page number 289, there is a one section is section 194A. It says that when and how the tax is to be deducted from source from interest other than interest on securities. So obviously, if someone puts a fixed deposit into the bank account, it is not an interest on securities, but obviously it is other than interest on securities. So section 194A is applicable, and there is a TDS rate is of 10%. And the limit is, if the interest is paid or payable by banks or cooperative banks and post office, then in, from financial year, from April 1, 2019 onwards, it is the limit is 40,000 or 50,000 if the recipient is senior citizen. So if a particular person is not a senior citizen and of whom the TDS is deducted, and the TDS is deducted at the rate of 10%, or in another case it is 5,000 rupees. So that's fine, right? So in section 194A, the rate of TDS is 10% subject to fulfill of conditions. Certain other conditions are there which is required to be satisfied. And if you look at the section 194, which talks about the tax deducted at source from dividend. So if particular person is receiving a dividend, right? So the resident shareholder dividend receiving at the time of payment, and if the amount exceeding 5,000 rupees, 10% TDS is required to be deducted by the company who is paying the dividend. Now, in each of the sections, whatever the sections, so this is section 194, TDS from dividend. Section 194A, which is interest other than interest on security. And then we learned two TDS provision, that is section 192A, that is withdrawal from the employees provident fund scheme, which is, fully taxable. So in that, the TDS is to be deducted at the rate of 10%. Right? तो उसमें भी 10% TDS था, कट रहा था. Same way, there is a section 192 of salary. But salary के अंदर you need to calculate the tax liability of the employee, and based on that you have to deduct the TDS. So there is actually no rates, normal rates. Right? So each sections of TDS requires a different kinds of rate at which the tax is required to be deducted. But what will happen in all these circumstances? The person whose TDS has been deducted, he, she or it has to communicate his, her or its PAN to the person who is making the payment to them, right? Or whoever is the deductor. If the recipient of the income does not provide the PAN to the deductor, then this provisions will be applicable. So in that circumstances, if the recipient does not furnish this PAN to the deductor, the tax will be deducted by virtue of section 206AA, the rate, normal rate, or at the rate of 20%, whichever is higher. Then you have to deduct the TDS at the higher rate. PAN of the deductee must be mentioned in the correspondence and documents which is exchanged between the deductor and deductee. Again, I came back on page number 585. That's where it is given. So in respective sections, whatever the rate of TDS, that will be applicable only if the person whose TDS has been deducted is furnishing his or her PAN to the deductor. If he is not furnishing the PAN to the deductor, then this section 206 AA will be applicable, and the TDS will be applicable at the rate of 20% or the rate applicable, whichever is higher, and there is no option. Not only this is little bit harsh provisions, which is, I think if you have material, please read from your material. When the recipient is a non-filer of income tax return, when the tax is required to be deducted in case of a specified persons under any provisions of this act, other than the sections given below, the tax shall be deducted at twice the normal rate or at the rate of 5%, whichever is higher. So आपको ये भी जानना पड़ेगा कि जिसका TDS काट रहा है डिडक्टर, अगर वो अपना इनकम टैक्स का रिटर्न नहीं भरता है, now so it becomes too complicated for the person who is making the payment and who is required to deduct the TDS. He has to ask to the deductor, भाई તમે તમારું ઇન્કમ ટેક્સ નું રિટર્ન ભરો છો ને? જો એ ઇન્કમ ટેક્સ નું રિટર્ન નહીં ભરતા હોય તો then there is section 206 AB will be applicable, and in that the TDS should be deducted of the provisions of the act, that the tax shall be deducted at the twice the normal rate. So normal rate है उसका twice करना है, or at the rate of 5%, whichever is higher. Right? So अभी हमने पढ़ा that in case of section 194A, where the TDS has been deducted from the payment of interest other than interest of securities. Now, if that fellow does not furnish the PAN, then obviously 10% or 20%, whichever is higher, so 20%. Or if the person who is receiving the interest income is a non-filer of income tax, then the twice of the rate. In that circumstances, you have to make the twice of the rate. So the normal rate is 10%, the twice of it means 20%, or at the rate of 5%, whichever is higher. So 5% or 20%, whichever is higher, means at the rate of 20%, the TDS shall be deducted. So that is what is the new provisions which is introduced, right? Section when the section 206AB is not applicable. The above provisions of section 206AB shall not be applicable if the tax is deducted under the following sections: 192, 192A, 192B, 192BB, 194N. During April 1, 2021 to 31st of March 2022, which the period is already over. तो उस समय पे की बात थी, उसी समय की बात थी. And then section 192, 192A, B, BB. Then here there was not section 94IA, 194IB, 194M, 194 LBC, and 194N after 31st of March 2022. So in this case, in this sections, section 206AB, non-filer of the income tax return will not be applicable. Right? Again, यहाँ पे लिखा था section 205, when the recipient is a non-filer of the income tax, when the tax is required to be deducted in case of specified persons. So here, the specified person means what? For the purpose of section 206AB, specified person means, this could be a one of the small questions can be asked in examination. So please remember this. Applicable during the April 1, 2021 to and 31st of March 2022. So 9 months. And applicable after March 31st, 2022. So for 9 months, July 1, 2021 to 31st of March 2022, who has not filed the return of income for both of the two assessment year relevant to the two previous year immediately prior to the previous year in which the tax is required to be deducted, for which the time limit of filing of return under section 139 subsection 1 has expired, and the aggregate amount of TDS or TCS in his, her or its case is rupees 50,000 or more in each of these two previous year. तो TDS की अमाउंट 50,000 से ज्यादा होनी चाहिए तो ही, otherwise not applicable. Applicable after 31st of March 2022. Who has not furnished the return of income of the assessment year relevant to the previous year immediately preceding the financial year in which the tax is required to be deducted, for which the time limit for filing the return of income under section 139 subsection 1 has expired, and the aggregate amount of TDS or TCS in his, her or its case is rupees 50,000 or more in the said previous year. तो वो होगा तो ही आपको ये प्रोविजंस एप्लीकेबल होंगे, अदरवाइज नहीं होंगे. Now this is interesting. Are you able to understand up to this? Any questions any one of you have? Hello?
No, sir.
Yes. I think so. Nobody is raising the hands. So I think there is no questions. Anyway, so let's move further. The overlapping between the section 190, section 206 AA and 206 AB. If the provisions of section 206 AA are applicable to a specified person, in addition to the provisions of section 206 AB, the tax shall be deducted at the higher of the two rates provided in section 206 AA and 206 AB. So what will be the situation? Suppose the persons whose TDS has been deducted, he, she or it has not furnishing or, does not furnishing his PAN to the deductor. Section 206 AA is applicable. Also, he is a non-filer of the income tax. So with for non-filing of the income taxes, and so both will be applicable. So in that circumstances, calculate the amount of 20% or rate applicable as per section 206 AA. So in that circumstances, at 206 AA के हिसाब से whichever is higher will be applicable. And then if he is a non-filer, section 206 AB, that is talking about, right, that the twice of the rate applicable or 5%, whichever is higher. So in dono, both the conditions should be satisfied, that to be taken into consideration. So suppose if the person who has put a fixed deposit into the bank is under a statutory obligation to do the TDS if the interest amount is exceeding 40,000 or 50,000 as the case may be. लेकिन suppose के वो condition satisfied हो जाती है and the bank is required to do the TDS on the interest payment of the deposits made by the depositors. Now, the person whose TDS has been deducted is not furnishing. So in that circumstances, 20% or the rate applicable. So the rate applicable is 10%, 20%. You have to compare with the 20%, and whichever is higher means 20%. The tax will be deducted at the rate of 20%. Now suppose the person whose TDS has been deducted at the rate of 20%. Why? Because that particular person has failed to comply with the provisions of furnishing the PAN. Now at the same time, he, she or it, they are also the default, there is a default or they are not filing the income tax return. So it says that twice of the rate applicable. So in our case, the rate applicable is 10%. Twice of it means 20% or 5%, whichever. Again, it comes out to be 20. So under 206 AA, it comes out to be 20. 206 AB, it comes out to be 20. So there is a tie. But you have to deduct at the rate of 20%. So you can say you have complied with both the sections. Is it clear, बच्चों? समझ में आ रहा है? Hello? Hello? Are you there?
Yes, sir.
Okay, fine. So you need to comply with both the sections. Wherever the TDS rate is higher, that's at the rate, that rate the TDS should be deducted. Notified jurisdictional area. Where any persons located in notified jurisdictional area is entitled to receive any sum on which the tax is deductible under any provisions of the Act, the payer will deduct the tax at the rate in force or at the rate specified in the relevant provisions of the Act or at the rate of 30%, whichever is higher. सो अगर कोई नोटिफाइड एरिया में रहता है जहां पे गवर्नमेंट को ऐसा लगता है कि इस एरिया के अंदर लोग टैक्स नहीं पेड करते, तो वहां पे टीडीएस रेट एप्लीकेबल और 30% विच एवर इज हायर मींस 30% पे ही जनरली लगेगा. Surcharge on TDS payment during the financial year 22-23. Surcharge will be applicable for the purpose of TDS during the financial year 22-23 in the following cases. In no other case for TDS purpose surcharge will be applicable. तो कहाँ पे applicable है? The payment of salary to a resident or a non-resident, surcharge is applicable at the rate of 10% of the TDS if the amount subject to TDS during the financial year 22-23 exceeds 50 lakhs but does not exceed 1 crore. 15% surcharge is 15% if the TDS amount subject to TDS during the financial year 2022-23 exceeds 1 crore but does not exceed 2 crore. Surcharge is 15%. Surcharge is 25% if the income exceeds 2 crore but less than 5 crores. And surcharge is 37% if the income exceeds 5 crores in the previous year. So these are the slabs of surcharge. The payment and credit other than salary to a non-resident individuals, HUF, AOP, BOI, artificial juridical persons, surcharge is 10% if the TDS, 10% of the TDS if the amount subject to TDS during the financial year 22-23 exceeds rupees 50 lakh but does not exceed 1 crore. So the up to 50 lakhs, there is no surcharge. 50 lakhs to 1 crore, 10%. 15% is from 1 crore to 2 crore. Then 25% is from 2 crore to 5 crore. And above 5 crore, it is 37%. So that's what is, in case of salary, it should be deducted. Payment or credit other than salary to a foreign company, surcharge is applicable only if the amount subject to TDS during the financial year 22-23 exceeds 1 crore. The surcharge is 1% of the TDS if the payment subject to TDS is more than 1 crore, but not more than 10 crores. And 5% of the TDS if the payment subject to TDS exceeds 10 crore. So this is what is the surcharge slab and it will be applicable. Health and education says during the financial year, it is health and education says the rate of 4% is applicable only in the following cases. And the tax is deducted from payments of salary, tax deducted from the payment or credit of any sum to a non-resident or foreign company. So foreign non-resident को payment हो रहा है और foreign country को हो रहा है, then the surcharge is required to be deducted. Otherwise, there is no need to deduct the surcharge. Consequences of the default. Where a person who is required to deduct the tax at source does not deduct or after deducting fails to or fails the whole or any part of the tax as required by the Act, then such person shall be deemed to be an assessee in default in respect of such tax under section 201 subsection 1. He will be liable for the payment of tax, interest, penalty, and prosecutions. Besides, disallowance under section 40 subsection A will be attracted. That will also be attracted. So this is what the consequences and that what is included in your syllabus. So if the person does not pay the TDS on a timely basis, there will be a penalty, interest, and prosecutions. Other points, the following points should be noted. No TDS on GST if the GST is shown separately in the invoice. The TDS is applicable on the payment excluding GST. तो GST के ऊपर कभी TDS लगता नहीं है. तो simple है. If I give you a simple example, let me open one Excel sheet. That's what we are discussing, right? हमने ये सारी चीजें डिस्कस की थी. फॉर्म नंबर 15 जी TDS कैसे काटना है और कैसे भरना है. So we are discussing the no TDS on GST. Suppose this ABC Limited, right? It is about the, you know, let's take another example. That is a P Limited. They are paying the rent, or suppose they are paying for audit fees. Obviously P Limited है तो ऑडिटर्स होगा तो ऑडिटर की ऑडिट फी दे रहा है. सपोज के ऑडिटर्स फी इज 50,000. Auditor is charging the bill. The audit firm is issuing an invoice for the audit fees to P Limited. So P Limited को invoice issue किया. Now the chartered accountant who is rendering the auditing services also registered under the GST. So they are also charging the GST on the audit fees. So it is subject because it is a professional fees. So there is an 18% of tax on it. Total it comes out to be 9,000. If it is an intra-state transactions, then the CGST or SGST will be applicable at 9%, 9%. So 9,000 will be divided into 2. Or I can say it is this into 0.09. So we वही आएगा. And then, you know, SGT is also the same. So total is 9,000. And this TDS will be deducted. So the actual invoice and the invoice value will be 50,000, the basic amount, plus CGST plus SGST, so 59,000. Now this 59,000 is subject to TDS as the P Limited will make the payments to the auditor for the audit fees. So that is covered by section 194A professional services. The question arises, TDS shall be deducted on which amount? Whether it is on 50,000 or 59,000, because in 59,000 CGST and SGST is there of 4,500, 4,500. So TDS should not be deducted on this. Under section 194, the rate of TDS is 10%. So here we believe and assume that the auditor has furnished this PAN to P Limited. तो ऑडिटर ने अपना पान नंबर P Limited को दिया है, ऐसा भी हम मान लेते हैं. So that section 206 AA is not invoked or will not be applicable. So twice the rate applicable or 20% whichever desire करने की जरूरत नहीं. Same way, the auditor is not a default in filing the return of income. So he is paying his return income. So section 206 AB is not applicable. OB applicable नहीं है. Now TDS will be deducted at the rate of 10%, that is concluded. But on which amount? So in that circumstances, as per the TDS provision, the TDS will be deducted on the amount excluding the GST component. So in this 59,000, the GST component is 9,000, so that should be ignored, and it is 50,000. So on 50,000, there will be 0.10%. So, you know, 5,000 will be the TDS will be deducted or not on 59,000. Is it clear बच्चों? समझ में आ रहा है?
Yes, sir.
ओके, समझ में आ गया ना, तब ठीक है. सो इट इज इम्पोर्टेंट. तो ये यहाँ पे वही बात है. TDS on reimbursement to agent, right? Where a technical fees or any other expenditure like rent, commission, royalty, professor, etc. is paid by an agent or an associate enterprise on behalf of the SSE, and the tax is deducted properly within the legal parameters by the agent or associate enterprise. Reimbursement later on by the SSE of the expenditure to his agent or associate enterprise is not again subject to tax deduction at source. So फिर उसके ऊपर ऑलरेडी TDS कटेगा नहीं, काटने की जरूरत नहीं है. So this is what all about the basics. And now the most important topic which I would like to discuss is the interest if there is a default in payment of interest. In the last lecture, we discussed about when and how the tax is to be deducted from salary, section 192. We covered. Then we discussed about section 192A, which is the premature withdrawal from the employees provident fund scheme, and conditions we have learned. Today onwards, actually, we have to start from when and how the tax is to be deducted at source from the interest on interest, है ना, other than interest on securities. तो वो हम करने वाले थे, लेकिन वो बाद में करेंगे. Let's understand कि if a TDS has been deducted and has not been deposited within the time limit. So let's continue with our same example, that is the P Limited. P Limited is appointed an auditor, and suppose the name of the auditor is, you can take Mr. Kirit. Kirit is a chartered accountant and he is an auditor in P Limited. He is charging the audit fees and he is issuing an invoice which is of 59,000, which includes CGST and SGST of 4,500 each. So the total amount of is 9,000. And from this, suppose this invoice has been issued by the chartered accountant to P Limited. Suppose on the month of, or suppose on the month, or you can say date, this invoice is given to P Limited on suppose 10th of December 2022. 10th December को दे दिया था और उसके अंदर टर्म्स था the 1 month credit period is given. So obviously the amount is due on 9th of January 2023. Now suppose P Limited has made the actual payment on 7th of 1 2023. तो 7 तारीख को पेमेंट किया, लेकिन पेमेंट करते समय एज पर द TDS प्रोविजंस P Limited has deducted the TDS of ₹5,000 at the rate of 10% as per section 194. तो उस हिसाब से उन्होंने TDS काटा. So now the tax has been deducted. TDS. So TDS deduction is on this date. As per the TDS provisions, जिस मंथ का TDS उसकी नेक्स्ट महीने की 7 तारीख तक TDS भर देना है, except the March month where the 30 days has been provided or has been given. So the TDS has been deducted on 7th of January 2023. The due date of payment of this tax is 7th of February 2023. 7th of February 2023, this 5,000 shall be deposited. Now try to understand, if they fail to do so, अभी तक नहीं पेमेंट किया, the payment has not been made by the P Limited. So in that circumstances, whatever the TDS amount which is deducted by the P Limited is required to be paid to the government. There is no doubt about it. But it should be paid with the interest. You have to pay with the interest. So this 5,000 shall be paid with the interest. So the provisions of interest says that the default will start if you miss the due date. Then the default will start from the date of the deductions. तो आपने जहां से deduction किया है. So I have deducted on 7th of January 2023. तो जनवरी का मंथ, फेब्रुआरी का मंथ, और सपोज कभी मार्च आ गया है, इट इज नॉट पेड टिल टुडे, सो मार्च, सो देयर इज अ डिले ऑफ 3 months. समझ में आ रहा है बच्चों? इज अ डिले ऑफ 3 months. कैसे आया? जनवरी में काटा था टीडीएस, अगर 7th ऑफ फरवरी को मैं पेड कर देता हो जाएगा, लेकिन आज की तारीख तक पेड हुआ नहीं है. इसका मतलब ऐसा हुआ कि जनवरी में काटा था तो जनवरी महीने का डिफॉल्ट, फरवरी में डिपॉजिट करना था वो नहीं किया था तो फरवरी भी डिपॉजिट, और अभी तक मार्च चल रहा है, मार्च में भी पेमेंट नहीं किया है तो मार्च महीना. सो जनवरी फरवरी मार्च 3 months इज डिले. नाउ द इंटरेस्ट इज 1.5% पर मंथ or part thereof. So this is TDS provision. So interest आपको पेड करना पड़ेगा at the rate of 1.5% per month or the part of the month. तो यहाँ पे हमारा डिफॉल्ट हो गया है 5,000 का. 5,000 into 1.15. Right? So 75 rupees. But that comes out to be of 1 month. The delay is for 3 months. I have to multiply it with 3, so 225. So if I have not paid till today, or if I am not paying till 31st of March 2023, then, and if I pay on 31st of March 2023, the delay will be considered as a 3 months, and the interest will be levied at 225 rupees. If he does not pay by the end of the month of March, मार्च में भी पेड नहीं करता है, तो फिर मार्च की 31st मार्च के बाद आ जाएगा अप्रैल, तो फिर ये instead of 3 months it will become of a 4 months, so it will become 300 rupees. समझ में आ रहा है बच्चों इंटरेस्ट हाउ टू कैलकुलेट?
Yes, sir.
है ना? तो इसके ऊपर अगर एग्जाम में कोई क्वेश्चन आ जाता है तो यू वुड बी एबल टू सोल्व. बुक्स के अंदर कहीं पे इसके बारे में बात लिखी नहीं है, सो यू शुड बी एबल टू अंडरस्टैंड कि आपको ये लिखना है एग्जाम के अंदर. ठीक है, आप खुद की एक केस स्टडी बना सकते हो, क्योंकि डिफॉल्ट इसका ऐसा नहीं है कि आपने जनवरी में काटा और अगर फरवरी में दे दिया होता तो कोई डिफॉल्ट नहीं था, 5,000 ही भरना था, बात खत्म हो जाती. लेकिन अगर 7 तारीख चली जाती है, डिफॉल्ट विल स्टार्ट फ्रॉम द मंथ इन विच द टीडीएस हैज बीन डिडक्टेड. तो टीडीएस जनवरी में कटा है तो जनवरी का भी इंटरेस्ट देना पड़ेगा, फरवरी का भी देना पड़ेगा, और अगर मार्च में पेमेंट करते हो तो मार्च का भी देना पड़ेगा. दिस इज व्हाट यू नीड टू अंडरस्टैंड. तो डिले नहीं चलना चाहिए, डिले कभी भी नहीं होना चाहिए, अदरवाइज दिस विल बी द एक्स्ट्रा मनी व्हिच द डिडक्टर हैज टू बेयर फ्रॉम हिज ऑन पॉकेट, क्योंकि वो ऑडिटर के पास से तो वसूल नहीं कर सकता, क्योंकि ऑडिटर को आपने 50,000 में से 5,000 टीडीएस काट के 45,000 का पेमेंट कर दिया है. Now it is the company's default that they have not paid within the due date and the interest is levied. That is an additional burden which the company has to bear, and that's the reason this job is sensitive in nature. बच्चों समझ में आ रहा है यहाँ तक?
Yes, sir.
Okay, how many students have joined? I don't know. Okay, so 14 students have joined. I think the online is, sir, please add me. I have added everyone. have anyone in the lobby? There is no one in lobby. I don't know. Is there any issue that someone is would like to attend and because of any of the reasons they are not able to join? If it is so, kindly inform me if any of your colleagues is not able to join. Here there is a message, but I think, sir, please add me, and then uh, the message has been deleted. Oh. But I have not restricted anyone. I allowed everyone to join. Okay, anyway. So let's move further. The when and how the tax is to be deducted at source from the interest on security, section 193. अगर कोई किसी generally the securities are issued by the governments and the companies, either the debentures or bonds, or the government securities are issued by the government. So any security is issued by any of the enterprise, and then whenever they are making the payment of interest on it, it will be subject to TDS if few conditions are satisfied. The provisions of section 193 are given below. Who is the payer? The payer of the interest on security, the person who has issued the security, they are under a statutory obligation to pay the interest on it. Who is the recipient? A resident persons holding the security, जिसके पास security है और जो resident इंडिया में उसको उसके ऊपर TDS मिलेगा. अगर वो non resident है, section 195 will be applicable. Payment covered, interest on security. अगर interest on security है तो ही आपको ये sections applicable होगा. At what time the tax has to be deducted at source? So at the time of payment or at the time of credit, whichever is earlier. So even though you have not actually paid the interest on security, but if it is due, suppose one company has issued debentures where the interest rate is 8%. So it's an 8% debentures of a face value of 1,000 rupees. And at the time of issue of debenture, they have mentioned the interest will be payable quarterly. Right? So if one quarter gets over, you need to pay the interest. And if the company does not have the money at that moment of time to pay the interest, they may delay. But the TDS is to be deducted and paid to the government as per the due date. So 3 महीने चले जाएंगे, तो जब 3 महीने खत्म हुए, उसकी नेक्स्ट महीने की 7 तारीख तक TDS का पैसा गवर्नमेंट को भर देना, अदरवाइज द इंटरेस्ट लगेगा उसके ऊपर. मैक्सिमम अमाउंट विच कैन बी पेड विदाउट द टैक्स डिडक्शन वो है, राइट, वो यहाँ पे पढ़ेंगे, राइट. And the rate of tax deducted at source 10%. So whatever the interest on security, that will be subject to the TDS at the rate of 10%. So 10% पे TDS कट सकता है. So when these provisions are not applicable, right? Interest on central or state government securities plus few more as given in para 271 sub 1, right? So यहाँ पे दिया हुआ है, that is A, B, C, D, and E. In that circumstances, the section 193 is not applicable, even though the person is making the payment of interest on securities. They are not subject to tax deduction if they fall into the category A, B, C, D, or E. Otherwise, they have to deduct. If they don't fall into this, then as per section 193, that person who is making the payment of interest on security subject to TDS of the rate of 10%. So, is it possible to get the payment without the tax deduction or with lower tax deduction? So यहाँ पे लिखा है C para number 289.7 or 289.8. That means ऐसा जहां पे भी लिखा है मटेरियल के अंदर, जिस भी सेक्शन के अंदर, आई वुड रिक्वेस्ट ऑल ऑफ यू राइट ओवर हियर ऑब्लिक करके फॉर्म नंबर 15G, फॉर्म नंबर 15H और फॉर्म नंबर 13 ऑप्शन इज अवेलेबल, जो मैं आपको बता चुका हूं कि व्हाट इज फॉर्म नंबर 15G, 15H और 15 फॉर्म नंबर 13. अगर है ना कंपनी है, वो डिबेंचर इशू किया है और उसके ऊपर इंटरेस्ट पेड कर रहा है और वो किसी इंडियन सिटीजन को पेड कर रहा है, और वो पर जिसको वो पे कर रहा है उसकी इनकम एग्जम्पशन लिमिट से ज्यादा नहीं है, सो दे कैन सबमिट, और वो सीनियर सिटीजन नहीं है तो दे कैन सबमिट अ फॉर्म नंबर 15G सबमिट कर सकते हैं। और अगर वो सीनियर सिटीजन तो 15H सबमिट कर सकते हैं, और उसका टीडीएस ज्यादा कट जाता है, बिकॉज टीडीएस कटता है at 10%. So he can make an application to the assessing officer in form number 13 for getting a certificate of lower tax deduction or no deduction of tax. तो ये जहां पे भी पेरा लिखा है, see, है ना, in any of the sections you have to write that options under 15G, 15H and form number 13 is available, right? So that's what you have to write. Securities interest which is not subject to tax deduction. So कब TDS नहीं कटता है under section 193 में कब नहीं कटता है उसके बारे में बात है. The no tax is deductible at source from the amount of interest payable on the following, right? The debenture issued by any cooperative society, including the cooperative land mortgage bank or a cooperative land development bank or any other institutions or authority or a public sector company notified by the central government. तो cooperative society है, यानी अथॉरिटी इंस्टीट्यूशन है और पब्लिक सेक्टर कंपनी है जहां पे गवर्नमेंट सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट नोटिफाई किया है, तो फिर उनको सेक्शन 193 एप्लीकेबल होगा नहीं, और उनको टीडीएस काटने की जरूरत नहीं. एनी सिक्योरिटी ऑफ सेंट्रल और स्टेट गवर्नमेंट, अगर सेंट्रल और स्टेट गवर्नमेंट को इशू करती है तो वो नहीं. हाउएवर, interest exceeding ₹10,000 payable during the financial year on an 8% saving taxable bond, लिखा ही है taxable bonds 2003, और 7.75% saving taxable bond 2018, popularly known as a relief bond, are subject to tax deducted at source. क्योंकि वो taxable bond ही है, तो फिर taxable bond है तो उसके ऊपर तो TDS कटेगा, तो उसमें कोई रिलैक्सेशन नहीं मिलेगा. Security beneficially held by the Life Insurance Corporation of India, General Insurance Corporation of India, or any of the four companies formed by virtue of the scheme framed under Section 16, subsection 1 of the General Insurance Nationalization Act 1972 or any other insurance. So insurance company अगर किसी जगह पे beneficiary, security beneficially on, अगर ऐसी कोई सिक्योरिटी है जो लाइफ इंश्योरेंस कॉर्पोरेशन ऑफ इंडिया और जनरल इंश्योरेंस कॉर्पोरेशन ऑफ इंडिया और एनी फोर कंपनीज फॉर्म्ड बाय इट, इफ इट दे आर होल्डिंग, तो उनको जो इंटरेस्ट मिलता है उसके ऊपर टीडीएस काटने की जरूरत नहीं है. इंटरेस्ट ऑन डिबेंचर अप टू ₹5,000 paid or payable by a widely held company by an accounting pay check to the resident individual or Hindu undivided family. तो कोई हिंदू अनडिवाइडेड फैमिली और रेसिडेंट इंडिविजुअल है, उसको अगर 5,000 तक का इंटरेस्ट ऑन डिबेंचर है तो उसके ऊपर टीडीएस काटने की जरूरत नहीं है. हाँ, इंडिविजुअल है, एचयूएफ है, रेसिडेंट इन इंडिया है और the interest amount is exceeding ₹5,000, the TDS shall be deducted. और any listed demat security, अगर कोई डिबेंचर ऐसे सिक्योरिटी है which is listed security और उसके ऊपर इंटरेस्ट का पेमेंट हो रहा है तो टीडीएस काटने की जरूरत नहीं है. आ रहा है समझ में सेक्शन 193? Any doubts?
No, sir.
Okay, fine. So today we'll keep up to this. Tomorrow onwards we are going to learn the other sections of section 194 onwards. Any questions anyone of you have?